First contact and desperate call. The crystalline spires of Lumina Prime gleamed under the warm light of twin suns, their translucent surfaces fracturing the daylight into dancing rainbows across the capital city. Within the council chamber at the city's heart, the atmosphere was anything but celebratory. Grand Administrator Celine gazed at the holographic displays with her 4 eyes, her bioluminescent skin flickering with distress patterns as she studied the tactical projections. The Krellthax fleet has breached the outer defense grid, reported Defense Coordinator Valen, his voice resonating with harmonics of fear. Orbital stations 3 through 7 have fallen silent. We estimate less than 30 cycles until they reach Lumina Prime. The 7 members of the High Council exchanged anxious glances. The Luminary had been a spacefaring civilization for nearly 8,000 years, building their society on principles of science, art, and peaceful cooperation. Their technological prowess had allowed them to transform their home system into a paradise, with magnificent cities dotting their homeworld and its 3 moons. But they had never developed weapons of war, not ones that could stand against the Krellthax. Our evacuation ships can only accommodate 6% of our population, said Celine softly, and we have no guarantee they would escape the blockade. Elder Thorin, the oldest of the council members, rippled his sensory fronds in resignation. Then our civilization ends today. The Krellthax will harvest our world as they have harvested a dozen others. There is one option we haven't discussed, said sinologist Ilara, her voice hesitant. All eyes turned to her. The signal we detected 3 solar cycles ago. The one from the Forbidden Quadrant. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The Forbidden Quadrant, a region of space the Luminary had studiously avoided since their early days of exploration, when the first survey ships had returned with terrifying data. You would have us contact the Deathworlders. Elder Thorin's voice dripped with incredulity. The beings from that nightmare planet. Ilara activated a holographic display, showing a blue-green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. They call it Earth. Yes, by our standards, it is indeed a death world. Extreme weather conditions, tectonic instability, aggressive predators, deadly microorganisms, yet somehow intelligent life emerged and thrived there. Not just thrived, corrected Ilara, but evolved with remarkable adaptations. Our long-range observations show they've achieved spacefaring capability despite their volatile history. And most importantly, she hesitated before finishing her thought. They understand war. Silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. The Luminary had always prided themselves on their peaceful nature, seeing violence as a primitive trait they had evolved beyond. The idea of asking warlike creatures for help was anathema to their deepest cultural values. We decoded their transmissions. Ilara continued into the silence. They call themselves humans, and despite their violent tendencies, they also display remarkable compassion, creativity, and resilience. They are complex. Celine's skin flashed with decision patterns. Send the signal. We have nothing to lose. 2 weeks later, in the outer reaches of the Luminary system, a small research vessel hovered near an ancient communications array that had been hastily repurposed. Aboard the ship, Ilara and a small team of specialists worked feverishly to maintain the powerful transmission beam aimed toward Earth. No response yet, reported communications specialist Torin. Are we certain they can even detect our signal? Ilara nodded. Their technology should be capable of receiving it. Whether they'll understand it or choose to respond is another matter. The message they had sent was elegant in its simplicity, a mathematical sequence that established basic communication protocols, followed by astronomical coordinates, and a compressed data packet containing images of Luminary civilization and the approaching Krellthax fleet. It concluded with a simple plea, translated into what they believed to be the dominant Earth language. Help us. Administrator, called Toran suddenly, his voice tight with excitement. We're detecting a response signal, matching our transmission protocol. The communication screen flickered to life, displaying a visual feed. The luminary scientists stared in fascination and apprehension at their first direct view of a human. The creature had pinkish-tan skin, dark eyes, and short black hair. It wore a uniform with insignia they couldn't interpret. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "We have received your distress signal and are analyzing your data. Please stand by for further communication." The transmission ended, leaving the luminary scientists in stunned silence. They had done it, made first contact with the Deathworlders. "They responded so quickly," whispered Toran. "How is that possible? The signal would take years to reach their world." Ilara's sensory fronds quivered. "They must have exploration ships closer than we realized. The question now is whether they'll help us." 3 days later, they had their answer. The research vessel's sensors detected multiple objects entering the system at velocities the luminary had thought impossible. When the objects dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the luminary team gasped in collective shock. Ships, dozens of them, some larger than anything the luminary had ever built. And unlike the elegant crystalline aesthetic of luminary vessels, or the chitinous, organic appearance of Krellthax bioships, these were angular, armored behemoths bristling with what could only be weapon systems. The communication screen activated again, showing Admiral Chen. "People of Lumina," he said, his expression grim but determined. "Humanity has heard your call. We are deploying a combat fleet to your system, with orders to protect your civilization from the Krellthax invasion force. Please transmit all tactical information you have on the enemy. We'll handle the rest." Ilara struggled to find her voice. You will help us. Just like that. You don't even know us." Something changed in the human's expression. A slight softening around the eyes, a subtle shift that Ilara couldn't quite interpret with her limited understanding of human physiognomy. "Let's just say we have some experience with existential threats," Admiral Chen replied. "And we've never been fond of bullies. Now, let's get to work. You have a civilization to save, and we have a job to do." As Ilara watched the human warships move into defensive formations around Lumina Prime, she felt something she hadn't experienced since the Krellthax were first detected: hope. The Deathworlders had answered their call. Now they would see what creatures forged in Earth's crucible were truly capable of. The human response. 6 months earlier, aboard the UESS Pathfinder, Lieutenant Commander Sophia Liu had been monitoring routine deep space transmissions when something extraordinary crossed her detection grid. "Captain," she called, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm detecting an artificial signal from grid sector 87 Delta. Non-human origin, with clear mathematical sequencing." Captain Marcus Reynolds was at her station in seconds, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he studied the readouts. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught him to treat every anomaly with equal parts caution and curiosity. "Run a comparison with all known signal types," he ordered, "and prepare a transmission buoy for immediate dispatch to Earth Command." Within hours, the unclassified signal had been verified as humanity's first confirmed extraterrestrial communication. The message was simple but unmistakable. Intelligent life was reaching out, and they were in danger. The response on Earth was immediate and unprecedented. For the first time in human history, geopolitical differences were temporarily set aside as nations convened an emergency United Earth Council session. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood before the assembled representatives in Geneva, her uniform crisp, her posture rigid. Behind her, massive screens displayed the translated alien message and images of the luminary civilization. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice filling the chamber, "we are facing a historic moment. An alien civilization, the luminary, has requested our assistance against an aggressor species known as the Krellthax. Our deep space vessel Pathfinder is currently positioned within communication range of the luminary system, which has allowed us to establish preliminary dialogue." She gestured to the tactical displays showing the approaching Krell-Fax fleet. Based on the information provided, the Luminary are a technologically advanced but non-militaristic society. They have approximately 3 Earth months before their homeworld is overrun. And why should Earth involve itself in an alien conflict? Asked the representative from Brazil. This could be a deception, or worse, draw us into a war we cannot win. Admiral Vasquez nodded, acknowledging the concern. A valid question. Our xenobiologists and intelligence analysts have thoroughly examined the Luminary transmission data. Everything suggests they are exactly what they claim to be, a peaceful civilization facing extinction. As for the risk, her eyes hardened. The Krell-Fax have apparently destroyed multiple civilizations. If we allow them to continue unchecked, how long before they discover Earth? The chamber erupted in heated debate. Security concerns, ethical implications, logistical challenges, all were weighed and analyzed. In the end, however, humanity's decision came down to something more fundamental than strategic calculations. We have spent centuries looking to the stars, said Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the renowned astrophysicist addressing the council, wondering if we were alone, hoping to find others. Now we have our answer, and with it comes our first test as a spacefaring species. Will we extend our hand to those in need, or will we turn away? This moment will define humanity's place in the cosmos. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would respond to the Luminary distress call. 3 weeks later, at the orbital defense shipyard above Earth, Admiral Chen inspected the assembled fleet. 17 nations had contributed warships to the expedition, the largest cooperative military operation in human history. The flagship, the UES Defender, was a marvel of human engineering. A fusion-powered dreadnought equipped with advanced railgun systems, missile arrays, and defensive technologies developed from decades of preparing for threats that, until now, had never materialized. In the ship's briefing room, Admiral Chen addressed the assembled commanding officers. This mission presents unprecedented challenges, he stated plainly. We'll be operating in unknown territory against an enemy with technology we don't fully understand. But we have advantages the Krell-Fax won't expect. Lieutenant Commander Jackson raised her hand. Sir, the intel suggests the Krell-Fax have superior firepower and numbers. What advantages could we possibly have? Chen's smile was grim. Surprise, for one. The Luminary have informed us that in this part of the galaxy, Earth would be classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that complex life should theoretically never have evolved there. The Krell-Fax won't be expecting a species with our particular adaptations. He brought up a holographic display of a Krell-Fax bioship. Their technology is impressive, but their tactics are straightforward. Overwhelming force applied directly. They've never needed subtlety because they've never faced significant resistance. But we humans, he paused, looking at each officer in turn. We developed warfare against ourselves, the most dangerous opponents we could imagine. We understand asymmetric tactics, psychological warfare, and adaptive strategy in ways the Krell-Fax cannot comprehend. In short, he concluded, they're bullies who've never been punched back. Let's show them what happens when you pick a fight with Deathworlders. Chen turned to the ship's AI interface. Athena, begin final preparations for jump sequence. Set course for the Luminary system. The AI's serene voice filled the room. Jump preparations initiated. Time to departure. 6 hours. As the meeting adjourned, Captain Diana Rodriguez of the UES Santiago lingered. Admiral, there's something that's been bothering me. The Luminary message. They seemed almost afraid of us, even as they asked for help. Chen nodded slowly. Wouldn't you be? From their perspective, we're dangerous primitives from a planet that should have killed us. They're reaching out to us precisely because we're what they fear most. A species evolved to survive against all odds. He looked out the viewport at the assembled fleet. Let's hope the Krell-Fax learn to fear us too. The journey to the luminary system pushed human faster-than-light technology to its limits. The fleet traveled in coordinated jumps, maintaining formation through the warping of space-time, a feat that would have been impossible just a decade earlier. During the transit, the crews drilled relentlessly. Combat simulations ran day and night, with tactics continuously refined based on the limited data they had on Krellthak's capabilities. Engineers modified weapons systems to target the apparent vulnerabilities in Krellthak's bioship architecture. Marines practiced boarding actions against mock-ups of alien vessel interiors. In her quarters aboard the Defender, Lieutenant Aisha Okafor reviewed cynobiological reports on the Krellthaks. The species appeared to be arthropoid in nature, with heavily armored exoskeletons and a hierarchical hive structure. They evolved on a high-gravity world with a dense atmosphere, conditions that had produced physically powerful beings, but had also imposed certain limitations. They've never had to adapt, she muttered to herself. They just overwhelmed through strength. A trait, she realized, that made them fundamentally different from humans. Earth had forced humanity to adapt continuously, to use intelligence to overcome physical limitations, to develop tools and technologies that compensated for their relative weakness compared to other apex predators. Humans had never been the strongest, fastest, or most durable species on their planet, yet they had come to dominate it through adaptability and cooperation. Now, those same traits would be tested against an enemy from beyond the stars. As the fleet prepared for its final jump into the luminary system, Aisha found herself wondering what other species across the galaxy might think of humans once this was over. Whatever happened next, humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage would be anything but quiet. Arrival and confrontation. The human fleet dropped out of FTL on the outer edge of the luminary system, sensors immediately scanning for threats. From his command chair on the Defender's bridge, Admiral Chen surveyed the tactical display with experienced eyes. Multiple contacts detected, reported Lieutenant Commander Riza, the tactical officer, designating larger cluster as luminary vessels near the fourth planet. Second cluster approaching from the system edge. Profile matches Krellthak ships based on luminary data. They appear to be pursuing a group of civilian luminary vessels. Chen leaned forward. Time to intercept. The Krellthaks will overtake the civilian ships in 17 minutes, sir. Then we have 16 minutes to make an impression. Battle Group Alpha, move to intercept. Battle Groups Beta and Gamma, establish perimeter formation. All ships maintain stealth protocols until my command. The human warships moved with practiced precision, their advanced drive systems leaving minimal energy signatures as they accelerated toward the conflict zone. The leading edge of Battle Group Alpha, consisting of the fastest frigates in the fleet, reached visual range of the confrontation, just as the Krellthaks were closing on their prey. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had encountered, massive, chitinous structures that seemed more grown than built, with organic curves and pulsing light patterns across their hulls. The pursuing vessels dwarfed the fleeing luminary ships, predators stalking wounded prey. "We're in range," Admiral, reported Captain Yoshida from the frigate Sakura. "Awaiting your orders." Chen took a deep breath. This would be humanity's introduction to interstellar warfare. Open a channel to the Krellthaks vessels. All frequencies, maximum broadcast. The communications officer nodded. Channel open. Sir. Attention Krellthaks vessels. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are engaging in hostile actions against the sovereign luminary civilization, which has requested our protection. Cease your pursuit immediately and withdraw from this system. For several long seconds, there was no response. Then the communications screen flickered to life, revealing the Krellthaks for the first time. The alien commander resembled a massive insectoid, with a chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's lights. Multiple compound eyes reflected the screen's glow, and mandibles clicked as it spoke, its words translated by the communication system. Unknown vessels. The voice was harsh, almost mechanical in its cadence. This matter does not concern you. The Luminary are our rightful harvest. Their resources will feed the brood. Interfere, and you will share their fate. Chen's expression remained impassive. I'm afraid we see things differently. The Luminary are under Earth's protection now. This is your final warning. Withdraw, or face the consequences. The Krellfax commander's mandibles clacked in what might have been amusement. Your vessels are few, and your weapons primitive. We have conquered 12 worlds. You cannot stop the harvest. Actually, Chen replied calmly, we can, and we will. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Target the lead Krellfax vessel's propulsion systems. Authorized weapons free. The UEA Sakura's railgun batteries powered up, electromagnetic accelerators charging to full capacity. The kinetic energy weapons fired in perfect sequence, launching tungsten projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The impacts on the Krellfax ship were devastating. The railgun rounds punctured the organic hull like bullets through paper, the sheer kinetic force transmitting destructive shockwaves throughout the vessel's structure. Direct hits, reported Captain Yoshida. Target's propulsion is disabled. They're venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. The remaining Krellfax ships broke off their pursuit of the Luminary vessels, turning to face this new threat. Energy weapons charged along their hulls, organic weapon pods pulsing with bioluminescent light. All ships, defensive formations, ordered Chen. Phase 2 engagement protocols. The human fleet's formation shifted, smaller vessels taking shelter behind the larger warships as the Krellfax opened fire. Brilliant energy beams lashed out across space, some impacting the advanced shield systems of the human vessels in dazzling displays of light. Shields holding at 84%, reported Lieutenant Commander Riza. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. Point defense systems are adapting to their attack patterns. Chen nodded. This initial skirmish was providing valuable combat data. Maintain defensive posture. Deploy Electronic Warfare Package Alpha. Across the human fleet, specialized systems activated, flooding Krellfax communication channels with targeted interference. The alien vessels' coordinated attack patterns began to falter as their communications degraded. They're regrouping, observed Riza, consolidating their forces around what appears to be a command vessel. Perfect. Chen smiled slightly. Deploy microdrones, pattern echo. From the human warships launched thousands of small, autonomous drones, each barely larger than a human hand. The swarm accelerated toward the Krellfax formation, using their small size and distributed network intelligence to evade defensive fire. On the Krellfax command ship, Supreme Hunter Kivex raged at his subordinates. Destroy those primitives. They dare to challenge the brood. His tactical officer's antennae twitched nervously. Supreme Hunter, our targeting systems are being disrupted by unknown means. And there are small objects approaching our formation. Kivex dismissed the concern. Insignificant. They cannot penetrate our bioarmor. Concentrate fire on their larger vessels. The microdrones reached the Krellfax formation, attaching themselves to ship hulls and immediately deploying specialized cutting tools designed to breach the organic armor. Within minutes, they had created thousands of small entry points and deployed their secondary payloads, microscopic sensor units that began transmitting detailed structural and tactical data back to the human fleet. On the Defender's bridge, the tactical display suddenly enriched with internal schematics of the Krellfax vessels. Chen studied the new information with satisfaction. Now we see you. Target their command and control nodes. Pinpoint strikes. The next wave of human attacks struck with surgical precision. Railguns and energy weapons now aimed at specific vulnerabilities identified by the microdrones. Krellfax ships began to drift, their biological systems failing as critical nodes were destroyed. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Luminary." The screen displayed a Luminary official, her translucent skin pulsing with patterns of blue light that the translation software identified as indicators of awe and gratitude. "Admiral Chen," she said, Her melodic voice translated into English. "I am Administrator Celine of Lumina Prime. We did not expect such swift and effective action. You have saved those transport ships and everyone aboard them." Chen inclined his head respectfully. "This is only the beginning, Administrator. The Krell-Thax main fleet is still approaching your homeworld. We need to coordinate our defenses immediately." "Of course," Celine agreed. "We will share all information we have, though I must warn you, our knowledge of warfare is limited. The very concept is alien to us. Understanding war isn't something to be ashamed of lacking," Chen replied. "That's why you called us. Let us handle the fighting while you focus on protecting your people." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Commander Jackson approached the Admiral. "Sir, initial analysis of the Krell-Thax technology suggests they've evolved, rather than engineered, most of their systems. Their ships are partially organic, grown rather than built." Chen considered this. Biological systems have advantages, but also vulnerabilities. "Find me those vulnerabilities, Commander." "Already working on it, sir." "There's something else. The Krell-Thax communication we intercepted mentioned a harvest. They seem to view the Luminary as resources rather than opponents." "Predator psychology." Chen nodded. "They're not expecting prey to fight back effectively. Let's use that against them." On the Krell-Thax command ship, Supreme Hunter Kivex received the damage reports with mounting rage. 3 ships disabled by the initial engagement. And for what? A handful of luminary transports that would have yielded minimal biomatter for harvesting. "These humans," he spat the unfamiliar word. "What do we know of them?" His science officer approached cautiously. "Limited information. Supreme Hunter. They originate from a system previously deemed uninhabitable by our surveys. High radiation levels, atmospheric toxins, extreme gravitational stresses. A death world, by our classification." Kuvex's compound eyes narrowed. "Nothing valuable evolves on such worlds, yet they possess technology that damaged our bioships." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact the Harvest Fleet. Inform Hive Commander Varek that we have encountered resistance from a previously unknown species. The primary operation will proceed as planned, but we must allocate forces to eliminate these Deathworlders." As the 2 fleets regrouped and prepared for the next phase of battle, neither side fully understood what they were facing. The Krell-Thax, confident in their biological superiority and conquering history, had never encountered a species forged in adversity like humanity. And humans, despite all their preparation, were engaging in their first interstellar conflict against an enemy with technology and biology utterly foreign to them. The battle for Lumina Prime had only just begun, and the galaxy was watching. Adaptive warfare. Captain Maya Sharma of the UES Indus crouched behind a fallen crystal column, plasma rifle clutched to her chest as Krell-Thax energy bolts sizzled through the air above her. Around her, the once pristine Luminary Defense Center was in ruins, its elegant architecture shattered by the brutal fighting. "Status report." She barked into her comm unit, the exoskeleton of her combat armor whirring softly as she shifted position. "East Sector secure, Captain," came Sergeant Wei's steady voice. "Marines have established a defensive perimeter. The Luminary civilians are being evacuated through the underground transit system." "West Sector still contested," reported Lieutenant Okafor, the sound of weapons fire clear in the background. "The Krell-Thax are trying to access the planetary defense mainframe. We're holding them, but they keep coming." Maya checked her tactical display. The situation across Lumina Prime's capital city was chaotic, but not hopeless. When the main Krell-Thax fleet had arrived 3 days ago, the battle had quickly spread from space to the surface as enemy dropships penetrated the orbital defenses. "All units, remember your training," she commanded. "The Krell-Thax have physical strength and numbers, but they lack adaptive tactics. Use their patterns against them." She peered around the column, assessing the situation. A group of Krell-Thax warriors had established a firing position at the entrance to the central command hub, their chitinous armor gleaming under the emergency lights. They were massive creatures, easily 7 feet tall with powerful limbs and natural weapon appendages that complemented their energy rifles. Rodriguez, Patel. Flanking maneuver Epsilon, she ordered. The 2 Marines acknowledged and began moving through the shadows on either side of the chamber. Maya had quickly learned that while physically imposing, the Krell-Thax struggled with certain tactical concepts. They preferred direct approaches, relying on strength and numbers rather than subtlety. Their hierarchical command structure made them vulnerable to disruption when leadership was targeted, and their compound eyes, while providing excellent peripheral vision, had difficulty tracking fast-moving objects in low light. She activated her armor's adaptive camouflage and darted to a new position, drawing enemy fire away from her flanking team. The Krell-Thax responded predictably, concentrating their attention on the most visible threat. Now, she commanded. Rodriguez and Patel struck simultaneously from opposite sides, their specialized weapons firing armor-piercing rounds designed specifically to penetrate Krell-Thax exoskeletons at their joint points, a vulnerability identified during the early battles. The alien warriors fell in confusion, their rigid tactical doctrine providing no ready response to the 3-pronged attack. Hub secured, Maya reported as her team swept the area. Lieutenant Carter, bring in the tech team. We need to integrate with the Luminary defense systems. In orbit above Lumina Prime, the space battle had evolved into a complex dance of technological adaptation. Initial encounters had proven that while Krell-Thax bioships possessed formidable offensive capabilities, they lacked the flexibility of human vessel design. Admiral Chen watched from the Defender's bridge as the tactical situation unfolded. The human fleet was outnumbered nearly 3-1, but they were exploiting weaknesses in the Krell-Thax formation with devastating effectiveness. Battle Group Delta reports successful deployment of the biodisruptors, announced Lieutenant Commander Riza. Krell-Thax regenerative systems are showing 60% reduced efficiency in the affected vessels. Chen nodded in approval. The biodisruptors, hastily developed after analyzing the organic components of Krell-Thax ship technology, were proving to be game changers. By targeting the biological processes that allowed enemy vessels to self-repair, the human fleet was negating one of the Krell-Thax's key advantages. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Krell-Thax command ship. They're requesting a parley." Surprised murmurs spread across the bridge. Chen raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Put them through." The screen displayed Hive Commander Varek, a larger and more elaborately armored version of the Krell-Thax they had encountered thus far. The translator rendered his clicking speech into English. "Human Admiral," the alien commander began, mandibles twitching. "You fight with unexpected skill for beings from such a harsh world. Your interference has cost us greatly." "That was the intention," Chen replied coolly. "You attacked a peaceful civilization. Did you expect no consequences?" Varek's compound eyes gleamed. "The strong consume the weak. This is the natural order. The Luminary are biologically valuable but militarily insignificant. You, however," the alien paused, antennae quivering. "You present an intriguing anomaly. Deathworld species rarely achieve spaceflight before self-destruction." "We're full of surprises," Chen said dryly. "Is there a point to this conversation, Commander?" "A proposal. Withdraw your forces and allow us to complete our harvest of the Luminary. In exchange, we will share the biological wealth with your species and recognize your territory as sovereign. You could become valuable trading partners rather than obstacles to be removed." Chen's expression hardened. "Let me be perfectly clear. The Luminary are under Earth's protection. We don't abandon allies, and we certainly don't participate in genocide for profit. Your harvest ends today." Varek's mandibles clacked rapidly, a gesture the translation software couldn't interpret. "You misunderstand your position, human. Our main brood fleet approaches. What you have faced is merely our advance force. You cannot hope to." Chen cut the transmission with a gesture. "They're stalling," he stated flatly. "Tactical, Analyze recent Krell-Thax fleet movements. The holographic display updated, showing enemy ship formations shifting to defensive clusters, while a new group of signatures appeared at the system's edge. Reinforcements, confirmed Riza grimly. Approximately 30 additional vessels, larger than what we've encountered so far. Chen studied the display thoughtfully. They're adapting to our tactics, consolidating their forces to neutralize our maneuverability advantage. And those new ships. He zoomed in on the approaching vessels. Those are their real capital ships. Sir, said Lieutenant Commander Jackson, at current force ratios, computer models give us a 27% chance of victory if the engagement continues along conventional lines. Then we won't fight conventionally, Chen replied. Transmit Operation Thunderbolt parameters to all ship captains and get me a direct line to Captain Sharma on the surface. On Lumina Prime, Maya's team had successfully integrated human tactical systems with the Luminary planetary defense grid. The crystalline control room hummed with activity as human technicians worked alongside luminary specialists. The concept is relatively simple, explained Lieutenant Eliza Chen, the team's lead engineer, to Administrator Celine. Your defense satellites were designed to deflect radiation and meteoroids, not to serve as weapons, but with some reprogramming. Celine watched in fascination as the human's fingers flew across the adapted interface. You're using our atmospheric stabilizers as delivery systems. Exactly, Eliza nodded. By reconfiguring them to release concentrated ionic bursts, we can disrupt the Krell-Thax ship's biological systems when they enter low orbit. It won't destroy them, but it will degrade their functionality enough to give our forces an edge. Maya's communicator chimed with a priority signal. Captain Sharma, this is Admiral Chen. Status report. Surface operations proceeding as planned, Admiral. We've secured the main defense center and are adapting luminary technology for defensive purposes. Civilian evacuations to the underground shelters are approximately 70% complete. Good work, Captain. Be advised, we've detected Krell-Thax reinforcements entering the system. We're initiating Operation Thunderbolt within the hour. Ensure all ground forces are prepared for Phase 3. Maya acknowledged the order, her mind already racing through the implications. Operation Thunderbolt was a high-risk stratagem developed during their journey to the Luminary system, a contingency plan for worst-case scenarios. Lieutenant Chen, she called, accelerate the defense grid modifications. Administrator Celine, we need to complete civilian evacuation immediately. Celine's luminescent skin pulsed with concerned patterns. What's happening, Captain? Maya hesitated, then decided the luminary leader deserved to know. The main Krell-Thax fleet has arrived. We're moving to our contingency plan. A coordinated strike designed to target their command structure and biological vulnerabilities simultaneously. It's higher risk than our original strategy. You're saying we might lose, Celine translated quietly. I'm saying victory just got more complicated, Maya corrected. But if there's one thing humans excel at, Administrator, it's winning complicated battles. In orbit, the human fleet executed a series of apparently chaotic maneuvers,